Welcome to Whispers in the Dark. I'm your host, Eddie, and tonight I'll be sharing with you a tale of mystery and the supernatural. Tonight we're following Detective Matthews into the creepy town of Blackwood, where an ancient cryptid is credited for a series of grisly attacks. Prepare yourselves for I was the only one who dared to investigate the Redmont Murders. Detective Ryan Matthews stared at the newspaper article in front of him. The headline read, "Mysterious animal attacks plague Blackwood." A chill ran down his spine as he read the details. The victims were all found mauled, with large claw marks and partially devoured. The memory of a similar case from 10 years ago haunted him, a case he never got to solve. Back then, he'd only just made detective and was working in the nearby city of Redmont. 3 people had been found dead that summer, killed in the same manner. The headlines were nearly identical. Unknown animal attacks stumped police in Redmont. The case had gone cold, leaving Ryan with a lingering sense of failure. The big theory the cops had then was it wasn't an animal. They were looking for a serial killer whose victims happened to end up half-eaten by animals. The killer knew the cops were getting close and probably moved on. Ryan never completely subscribed to that theory. The animal attacks were too similar. What are the odds the same animal found all 3 bodies? Sometimes things don't make sense because they don't make sense. Anyways, this new string of attacks was his shot at redemption. With a deep breath, Ryan made up his mind. He was going to Blackwood. Officially, it was outside of his jurisdiction, but he couldn't let this opportunity pass. He needed to know if there was a connection between the 2 cases. He took a few days off, claiming he needed some time away from the city. Upon arriving in Blackwood, Ryan felt the heavy atmosphere of a town weighed down by fear. The locals were tight-lipped, hesitant to speak with an outsider, but there was one place where he knew he could count on someone telling him something. The local tavern, the Huntsman. Ryan entered the Huntsman and immediately felt the warmth and chatter of the patrons. He took a seat at the bar, ordered a beer and some wings, and casually turned his attention to the game on the TV. And just like that, he was disguised as just another face in the crowd. During a commercial at the break, he feigned frustration at the game's score and muttered, "I've got $20 riding on this game." A man sitting nearby chuckled and said, "Don't worry, there's still plenty of time for a comeback." He flashed Ryan a friendly grin. Detective Matthews took the opportunity to engage further, asking if the seat beside the man was taken. With the welcoming shake of his head, the man gestured for Ryan to join him. Ryan ordered drinks for them both and settled in. During the commercials, the 2 shared drinks and small talk. During one of them, Ryan asked why the town seemed so gloomy. "I just wanted to get away from the city, and I heard this was a neat town to visit, enjoy a little peace and quiet, maybe hike a few trails." The man he was sitting with, Sam, immediately cut off Ryan. "Do not go into the woods, it's not safe right now." Then he glanced around to see if anyone was paying attention to him. Ryan replied, "I just can't get any luck. I'm gonna lose 20 on the game. I paid to visit a hiking town with no hiking. What's going on in the woods? Is it bears? I have bear spray." Sam replied, "It's not bears. You just can't go." Sam lowered his voice to a whisper. "We don't talk about it here. Once every 10 years, this thing hunts in our woods. We thought we got rid of it. Some witch performed some ceremony to force it out of our woods, and it worked. It didn't eat anyone 10 years ago. But now it's back. Just stay out of the woods." Ryan listened intently, piecing together the puzzle that was slowly beginning to take shape. 10 years ago, that's when the murders happened in Redmont. Whatever it was didn't stop. It just went to a different set of woods. He needed to talk to whoever that witch person was. Seeing how upset it made Sam, Ryan turned his attention back to the game and bought another beer for his friend. When Sam appeared to relax some, Ryan spoke up again. "It's too bad the woods are a dangerous place right now. This is a beautiful place to live, and the people here are really top-notch." Sam smiled and nodded. "I'd say so. I've lived here my whole life. Born in what's now the local hospital, but back then it was a small clinic with some hospital beds in the back. They had any medication you would need, but if you needed more than an x-ray, you needed to get on the highway." "Wow, your whole life? Lucky. I was just thinking, if that witch could stop whatever's in the woods before, couldn't she do it again?" Yeah, at least I would think so. She died 9 years ago. Well, at least we think she did. No one's seen her. Her niece lives in her old house, just outside of town. Maybe she scented the area with something the animal wouldn't like. A lot of animals have really strong senses of smell. A quick run through with something they didn't like. It might go away. It's not that simple. It isn't just some animal. When I was a kid, we would call it the Beast of Blackwood. According to the legends, it stood taller than a man. It had long, sharp claws to climb trees, and a neck long enough to hide its body behind a tree and reach around with it and bite you on the other side. People have seen this thing? No, it's just a story that the kids tell. Oh, also obviously it had glowing red eyes. Glowing red eyes? That sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. Sam chuckled nervously, taking another sip of his beer. Yeah, well, you know how kids can be. They love to tell scary stories. But seriously, there's something out there. People have been found, well, you know. Ryan nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of the situation. I know this might be the beer talking, but maybe there's some notes or records from the witch's ceremony 10 years ago. I mean, I came here to go hiking, and now, well, I believe you. I won't be going out. But this is pretty interesting too. Sam thought about it. I mean, if anyone would know, it would be her niece just outside of town. Detective Matthews stood silent and pensive for a moment. Where are the best burgers in town? Patty's Diner by a long shot. Have you ever had a barnyard brawl? It's a beef patty, bacon, and eggs, all on a toasted bun. It actually might be good enough to salvage your entire trip. Let's meet at the diner tomorrow. I'll get you a barnyard brawl. We can go visit that cabin. Sam wasn't really interested in seeing the witch's niece. But the problem with a barnyard brawl is once you say the words barnyard brawl, you really want one. And to be fair, he was actually available. Yeah, what the hell. Grab a burger, visit the cabin, and have a few drinks here later. Sounds like a pretty good day. Ryan and Sam exchanged numbers, and Ryan headed back to his hotel for the night, his mind racing with the thoughts of the Beast of Blackwood and the possible connection to his unsolved case from a decade ago. What are the odds? The following day, just as planned, Sam picked up Ryan. They got barnyard brawls and then drove out to the cabin. It was an old weathered structure, but still sturdy and very well maintained. They knocked on the door and were greeted by a young woman who introduced herself as Emily. The two men explained they were curious about her aunt. She confirmed she was in fact the witch's niece and invited the men inside to talk. Being friendly and offering a smile, Emily said, "Can I get you two anything?" "No, thank you," said Ryan. The men were still satisfied from lunch. Then Detective Matthews started. "The thing is, Emily, I know this may seem a bit unusual, but I've heard about your aunt. She was a witch that was able to stop the killings of the town people, right?" Emily's expression quickly turned cold. "My aunt was a healer and an herbalist, and I don't appreciate you referring to her as a witch. Who are you two? Reporters? Authors?" Before she could get another word out, Ryan explained himself. "I'm very sorry, Emily, I didn't mean any disrespect. My name is Detective Matthews, and I've been working on this case for years. 10 years ago, there was a string of deaths in Redmont. They were considered animal attacks at first, but we were never able to identify the animal, and then they just stopped, like whoever or whatever was responsible just vanished." Sam looked angry. "We don't like talking about these things to outsiders because some say strangers poking around makes it worse." "Sam, really, I'm sorry." "How sorry? Enough sorry to erase someone else dying? I thought we were just going to talk to Emily and see if she could find whatever was done and try it again, to prevent death." "That's the thing, Sam. Death wasn't prevented. Whatever happened just happened somewhere else." "Now look, I'm good at what I do. I came here just on a hunch based on an article, and I was right. Whether it's a monster or a human serial killer, I want to stop it and bring it to justice." For a moment, the room became quiet. Then Emily spoke up. "So you think there's either a killer or scary animal in the woods, and you want to face it?" "Yes, Emily. That's precisely what I want. I know it's strange, but I'm determined to put an end to this nightmare." Emily and Sam exchanged shocked glances, surprised by Detective Matthews' unwavering resolve. Despite their initial hesitation, they couldn't help but feel grateful for his dedication to the case. Sam, however, also seemed unable to shake his fear. He stood up, his face pale and strained. "I can't do this. I can't be a part of this. This is insane. Do you know why no one investigates these deaths here? Because they all die. I need to leave." Detective Matthews watched Sam's departure with understanding. Sam was his ride, but he was sure he could catch a taxi later. "What about you?" Detective Matthews said, looking at Emily. "If you really believe you can make a difference, Detective, then you're welcome to look at my aunt's journals. It's true what Sam said. Curious people do die here, but I keep to myself." As Detective Matthews delved into the books and journals left behind by Emily's aunt, he came across a passage that piqued his interest. It described a hidden location deep within the Blackwood Forest, a place that his aunt believed might be tied to a mysterious creature. "Emily, I found a passage in your aunt's journal that might be crucial to solving this case. It mentions a hidden location deep within Blackwood Forest, marked by strange symbols. Do you have any idea how we might find this place?" "Let me see. My aunt used to have a map of the woods. I think it's still here somewhere." Emily rummaged through her aunt's belongings and pulled out an old, worn map. She spread it out on a table, and they both leaned in to examine it. "This is a pretty large area. It's going to be tough to pinpoint the exact location." "Yeah, but maybe we can narrow it down by looking for any landmarks or patterns she might have written about." As they scrutinized the map, Detective Matthews and Emily struggled to find a way to narrow down the search area. They spent hours comparing the symbols and landmarks in the journal to any unusual markings on the map. Finally, they managed to identify a cluster of symbols that seemed to correspond to a specific region in the woods. It's still a very large area to cover, but it's better than searching the entire forest. "Thank you, Emily. Your help's been invaluable." "You're welcome, Detective. I hope you find what you're looking for." "I'm only looking for the truth. If I can find that, I'm happy." And with that, Detective Matthews stood up to leave and called a cab to get back to his hotel. Emily quickly stood up too and handed him the map and a small pouch of cleansing and protection herbs. "Take these with you. I don't know if they'll help, but it's better to be safe than sorry." "I appreciate that, Emily. Thank you for everything." Detective Matthews stepped outside and got into his cab. As he climbed into the vehicle, he couldn't help but feel a little anxious. There he was, in the back of a cab, with a pouch of protection herbs in his pocket. At the hotel, he carefully studied the map and went to bed. Detective Matthews lay in bed, struggling to fall asleep. He couldn't shake the feeling like he was being watched. Restlessly, he tossed and turned, the eerie sensation growing stronger. Suddenly, he awoke in the middle of the night. His heart was pounding in his chest. His eyes darted around the room, finally resting on the window. There, staring back at him, was a pair of glowing eyes. In an instant, he leapt out of bed and grabbed his firearm. As he ran to the window, the creature disappeared into the woods behind the hotel. Its massive size, lumbering gait, and clumsy footsteps sent chills down his spine. Determined to catch a glimpse of the beast, he sprinted through the hotel's hallway. Just as he rounded a corner, he collided with the hotel clerk, who recoiled in shock at the sight of the detective brandishing a weapon. "What the hell's your problem? I'm calling the cops." "No, wait. I'm a detective. I can explain." "A detective? Running around in his underwear with a gun in the middle of the night?" The clerk called the cops. When the police arrived, Detective Matthews quickly proved he was in fact law enforcement. The officers appeared to be unhappy with Detective Matthews being in town. "You don't have any jurisdiction here. No one at my office was notified. This is officially an unauthorized investigation." The officer was so loud Detective Matthews didn't even get to explain the deaths in Redmont to him. Detective Matthews told the officers he understood, wished them well, and went back to bed. All night his mind racing with the thoughts of the creature he had seen. The next morning, Detective Matthews rose early, the previous night's encounters fresh in his mind. He looked at the nightstand. There were two neat piles. One had his pistol and the map, and the protection herbs. And the other was his overloaded keychain. He could just drive home right now. But instead, he grabbed his gun and the pouch of protection herbs, left his car keys, and headed into the woods. The Blackwood forest was dense. There was gnarled branches casting eerie shadows on the ground. The air was heavy and damp, muffling the sounds of the forest. As Detective Matthews ventured deeper, he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. He started by following the directions that the creature had went, noting that the path seemed to align with the target area on the map. Detective Matthews hiked for hours, growing increasingly frustrated as the map didn't seem to match up with the forest exactly. The map was written on by Emily's aunt, meaning it was at least 9 years old, if not older. The cool, damp morning eventually gave way to an unbearably hot afternoon, and Detective Matthews was not prepared for this kind of weather. Desperate to get out of the heat, he spotted a cave and approached its entrance, hoping to enjoy the cool air coming from inside of it. As he stood there, examining the map, he noticed a familiar symbol on the cave wall, one that he had seen in Emily's aunt's journal and on the map. He began wondering if some of the markings he was searching for were actually underground or inside this very cave. It made sense and would explain why some things were just missing. He ventured inside. The cave was pitch black. Detective Matthews pulled out a flashlight to guide his way. He walked deeper into the cave for about half an hour, the darkness pressing in around him. Suddenly, he heard a sound that sent shivers down his spine. A low guttural growl echoing through the cave. Panicked, he realized the beast might be near. He quickly put the map away and debated what to hold in his other hand. His firearm would be useful, but what if that didn't work against the monster? The pouch of protection herbs could be the very thing that Emily's aunt used to force the monster out of the woods 10 years ago. In a split-second decision, Detective Matthews gripped the pouch of herbs with his teeth and put his gun in his right hand. He moved cautiously, the flashlight illuminating the way as he prepared to face whatever was lurking in the shadows of the cave. The sounds became louder. Detective Matthews could now hear the ominous sounds all around him. It seemed like there was a pack of these creatures surrounding him in the darkness. Suddenly, he was hit on the head from behind, bringing him to his knees. All at once, he dropped his firearm, flashlight, and involuntarily spit out the pouch of herbs. As he struggled to regain his bearings, he heard a familiar voice. It was the police officer from the previous night. "I told you to leave this alone, detective. But you just couldn't, could you? What are you doing here? What's going on?" "It's too late for you now, Matthews. You should have left when you had the chance. Now you'll have to die just like that witch." Detective Matthews tried to make sense of the situation, but was quickly overwhelmed by the officer and the others that were with him. The next day, the local newspaper had a chilling headline. "The mystery deepens. Detective Matthews attacked by the Blackwoods monster." The article went on to describe the grisly scene. In a shocking turn of events, Detective Matthews, who had been conducting an unauthorized investigation into the mysterious deaths in Redmont and Blackwood, was found dead in a cave deep within the Blackwood forest. Evidence at the scene suggested he had a terrifying encounter with the same creature believed to be responsible for the recent string of deaths. Local authorities have renewed their warnings for residents to avoid venturing into the Blackwood forest, citing the clear and present danger posed by this unidentified creature. Thank you for joining me tonight on Whispers in the Dark. I hope you enjoyed this gripping journey into the Blackwood mystery. I want to remind you, while being virtuous and brave is admirable, it's important to prioritize your own safety and well-being. You owe a debt to your loved ones, your friends and family, maybe even to people you haven't met yet. The story of your life is being written every day, so take good care of yourself so you can write a long story. You, my dear listeners, are incredibly special to me, and I want you to stay safe out there. I would be sad if you weren't here with me to share stories with. I hope you're ready for a good night's rest. But on this show, sweet dreams are not guaranteed. Good night.